Welcome to the Game Night High School Football Podcast, a weekly review of all the local high school football games set to be played this weekend. The Game Night Podcast is brought to you by Sun Orthopedics of Evangelical. Hit refresh and get back out on the field. Now, we turn it over to our hosts, sports editor Kurt Ritzman and lead sports writer Todd Hummel.
Welcome to Week 5 of our Game Night Football Podcast. I'm Kurt. This is Todd.
Hello.
Week 5 already, almost halfway through the season.
Well, it would be halfway. Well, I guess
after
Friday
night,
it's halfway through the season. I was like, wait, 5, 10, that is halfway through the season. Yeah, and, looking around the area, I think it's kind of gone as chalk so far. I think we talked a little last week. Surprised a little bit that Shikellamy is struggling as much as they are. I think Milton, Mifflinburg are kind of a bit of surprise playing as well as they have at times this year. Going to be interesting to see if Lime Mountain bounces back. We'll see how what that win for last week does for them. And it looks like Mount Carmel's on track offensively, especially after running I guess the last 2 weeks against Lewisburg and Jersey Shore, topping 300 yards on the ground. So it should be an interesting final 5 weeks.
Let's start in the TVL today. You mentioned Lime Mountain coming off an overtime win, got them back to 500, and they're hosting Millersburg this week, who you had a chance to see Monday in terrible weather that didn't do their passing game any favors.
No, they went from 361 yards, I think, to 39 last week. The weather Monday down at Millersburg, I would call it awful. There was at one point in the third quarter, at the beginning of the third quarter, I think it was a kid from Halifax got tackled along the sideline right by the side judge, and the side judge ended up covered in mud from about the ankles to his chest, and the ref just kind of looked and stared at him for a second and just started laughing at him because there wasn't much more you could do. And of course, once they were done playing, that's when it stopped raining down there, so that was kind of amusing. But yeah, Millersburg couldn't get their passing game on track. Halifax is actually now the only undefeated team left in the Tri-Valley League. Wow. I think there's 6 teams now at 2-1 in the Tri-Valley League, Lime Mountain being one of them. So, it's always, they talk about coaches speak. I think when reporters speak, I think if you read the preview, I think Mike Bullock said that the league was wide open, and that's usually just so we don't have to make a decision on who we think the favorite is. But I think it's pretty obvious, especially after Susquehanna beat Williams Valley, that, the Tri-Valley League's wide open right now. We talked a lot about Lime Mountain's offensive confidence, last week before the Judiana game, and Evan Herb threw for 227 yards and 2 touchdowns, didn't throw an interception, and that's a big thing for the Eagles. And the other big part for the Eagles, where they finally got a little bit of a running game going, and Colby Scott had 2 rushing touchdowns and 2, including the game winner, plus had a big game on defense. I think had about 15 tackles for the Eagles in that game. So now the big thing for Lime Mountain this week is not to get overconfident, because we've seen this Millersburg team, throw the ball against Pottsville Nativity and then Upper Dolphin, where they've topped 300 yards twice in a game. So Lime Mountain has to be careful of that. I think if they're able to kind of control that passing game, Millersburg's really going to struggle to run the ball against them and really stopping the run. I think Halifax was 31 carries for over 300 yards and just under, the mercy rule in the second half. And let's just put this kindly that the officials hurried the game along too in the mercy rule in the second half. So, not a lot of plays in the second half. So Millersburg's really struggled to stop the run. And I think that's something the Eagles will want to establish like they did last week to kind of get more balance offensively. Lime Mountain should probably roll in this one and stay alive in that deep Tri-Valley League race.
We talked about Halifax. 2 weeks ago, they beat Lime Mountain 37-7. So
yes.
It's not Millersburg losing by a lot was not, it's not like a bad loss.
No, it wasn't.
As far as losses go, I mean, all losses are bad, but
yeah, they didn't particularly play well though. I think that. Okay. I think some of the, I think the rain affected them, and once it's a little hard. Defense, it's a little harder for the defense in that type of weather because kind of the offensive guy knows which way he's going to go, and if you have to change courses on a field like that, you usually end up on your butt. So that didn't help the Indians' defense either.
Of all the teams we talk about, I would hate to say that Southern Columbia isn't the best team we're going to talk about today in this podcast, But Midwest has got a big challenge ahead of them. After the bye week, they had a dominant win, 35-0 maybe last week. They're headed to Jim Thorpe, unbeaten, unscored upon, won their last 2 games by more than 60 points each.
Yeah, this is a pretty good Olympians team. I think maybe a bit of a surprise that they've been this good. I can't think of the kid's name, but they had a pretty good running back, Justin St. Hill, I think it was last year, who got near 2,000 yards and really led them to a big season, and he graduated. But they're averaging 11.4 yards per carry on offense. That's all carries. They're up over 1,200 yards. And the other thing is defensively, they haven't a lot of point, and they have a defensive end, Dylan Daly, who has 8 sacks already in 4 games. So it's going to be a tough matchup for the Mustangs. Midwest is probably going to be without Trey Lawver, who ran for 130 yards in that opener and then got hurt the second week of the season. Mark Piccioni, the quarterback, topped had 140-some yards and 4 touchdowns last week. So he's been their main offensive force since Lawver went down. Now, the big thing there is the Mustangs are going to have to probably get a passing game on track, so this defense can't attack their running game, and that's kind of been a struggle for Pizzioni in the offense. Just 139 yards passing through the first 4 games, and it's going to be, the big thing in that Blue Mountain game was, that it allowed the game to get away quickly from Midwest was turnovers and mistakes. And that's something they're going to have to, if they want to stay in this game with the Olympians, they can't allow to happen. They got to play mistake-free football. Another long road trip. Jim Thorpe probably wins this one, but it's interesting to see. I'd like to see if Midwest at least makes this game for a game for a half or stays in this for 4 quarters. Because right now, with the way District 4, the 4A power rankings shake out, Midwest is looking at a home game right now, and
as the 2
seed.
Wow.
It's going to be interesting how Jersey Shore, reacts. I think Jersey Shore's 1-3 now, so Midwest has a shot at getting a home game, and I think if we'd have talked about that at the beginning of the season, I think people would be pretty surprised about that.
You think Midwest can score on Friday?
Maybe. This is a pretty good. I was looking this stuff up on the internet. Jim Thorpe's 4-0 and hasn't been scored upon. Lime Mountain's opening game opponent, Tamaqua's 4-0 and hasn't been scored upon. North Schuylkill's 4-0, who we're going to talk about in a couple minutes. And then Blue Mountain's 3-1 and Lehighton's 2-2. So that's a sounds like a pretty darn tough division that Jim Thorpe's in this year.
Let's talk about North Schuylkill now.
All right, let's.
Spartans are unbeaten, headed to 3-1 Mount Carmel. The Red Tornadoes' only loss was to Southern Columbia they were in the game. It was scoreless after 1. Southern pulled away, obviously, but I mean that's shaping up to be a real good game.
I was going to say best defensive effort against the Tigers so far this season.
Shaping up to be a real good game at the Silver Bowl Friday.
Yeah, and this game always is. I think I tell this story every year in the podcast. I think it was Gino Capone's senior year, late 90s, a guy that played mid-90s, played linebacker, ended up at Penn State. Actually got Chuck Benerick out from the Allentown area to come up and watch North Schuylkill and Mount Carmel. This is always a hard-hitting game. I think, just because of where we're situated at, I think people forget this is a rivalry. And I think you can get to Ashland from Mount Carmel in maybe 6 minutes. Wow. So these 2 schools are really close together. Always been a great rivalry. Always 2 great football programs. North Schuylkill is 4-0, and actually the only undefeated team left in that division that's actually been scored upon so far. And these Spartans beat Loyalsock in the opener, beat Shamokin in the second game, and we really think Danville's a good team. And you talk about they did a number on Danville in the scrimmage, before the season started. So this is a good North Schuylkill football team, and this could be almost mirror images. John Darrow was a coach for Wally Hall at North Schuylkill before he came to Mount Carmel. Both run that shotgun offense where you want to control the ball, run the ball. This game might have 20 passes combined and might take an hour and 10 minutes to play the way these teams want to run the ball.
So if you want to watch Penn State play at 9 o'clock on Friday and you want to go see a high school football game, head to the Silver Bowl.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Penn State does play at 9 o'clock. You might even get to your car in time to hear most of the first quarter on the radio. I think this is a pick'em game. I think North Schuylkill has won this game the last 2 years, I believe. Last year was close. Year before, I think they won pretty handily. Going to stay with the Spartans, but this, the way Mount Carmel looked against Lewisburg and Jersey Shore the last 2 weeks is tough to pick against the Red Tornadoes. They had struggled rushing the ball the first 2 weeks of the season, but John Ayers had 140-some yards against Lewisburg and over 200 against Jersey Shore. So, this Mount Carmel team is playing well right now, but I think it's North Schuylkill by a smidge.
And Shane Widener really had a nice game last week, rushing the ball also against Jersey Shore.
No, Lewisburg.
Against Lewisburg, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. He had a touchdown catch this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He used him more in the passing game this week.
Reisinger was slinging a little bit.
I love how 100 and some yards for Mount Carmel this year, slinging it, but it
good.
is.
Another undefeated team coming in to visit one of our teams. Selinsgrove, coming off the dominant Rally in the Valley win, moving up to 2-2, hosts 4-0 Berwick.
And freshman Nanny Schock was 18-21 last week for just over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Seals. Was really, really impressed by him last week. Now this Berwick defense is going to be a test. Actually, podcast was delayed for a half an hour because I talked to Coach Sheptock at 1:30, and we talked a little bit about do you try and do something a little different, more blitzes, more coverage, with a freshman quarterback, and they're pretty familiar. Selinsgrove goes up to the 7-on-7 at Berwick, and he was impressed then, and he's even more impressed now with just the strides between the Southern game 2 weeks ago and last week's Schick game. So it's just you just got to make sure not to. He said to make it too easy for him. Don't want to get locked into playing man-to-man all the time or sending the same blitzers. But I think the big issue for the Seals in this game is this Berwick defense. The secondary is led by a familiar name. Tegan Wilk played his freshman year over at Southern Columbia, and he's been over at Berwick now. This is his second season, and he was an all-state defensive safety last year, back again this year, actually 2 times because he was Class A as a freshman. And then, and I hate to do this because he's so good, and the linebacker's name's not coming to my head. Evan, and they're running, and they're gonna come at Selinsgrove. They're gonna run the ball. There's one 300-pounder on the line, but this is a big Berwick team. Everybody's between 200 and 280 pounds. It's going to be a tough matchup. Took the Seals a little bit to get their running game established last week against Schick. But it was also the first time the Seals have been completely healthy up front. So it's interesting to see how much improvement they make in that area from week to week. I think Berwick wins this one, but this is another game I'm interested to see, how much improvements Selinsgrove has made since that Southern game, and I think this one is close, but I think Berwick pulls away in the end. They're just a bit more experienced than the Seals right now.
We're going to dive into some Heartland Athletic Conference games after we hear a word from our sponsor, Sun Orthopedics of Evangelical.
Whether it's time to live it up on the field or in the backyard, there's always time to play. The sports medicine team at Sun Orthopedics of Evangelical understands how important movement is to you and your family's life. With 4 convenient locations, the experts at Sun Orthopedics explore every treatment option available, from simple braces to advanced surgical techniques. They support you through the entire healing process, making sure you're back to being a warrior every weekend. Sun Orthopedics of Evangelical. Hit refresh and get moving again.
All right, let's jump into some hack games. Shikellamy has struggled, scored 1 touchdown so far this year, looking for its first win. Hosts Jersey Shore at 1-3. This could be a key game for playoff standings.
Yeah,
because at least one of them's getting in, if not both of them.
Both of them are probably getting in. I think with the schedule with the new power rankings, with all the smaller schools that Votech plays as the 5th school between these other 4 schools, I think, unless Votech gets hot and wins 4 or 5 games, I think it's going to be tough for them to leapfrog these hack schools.
Okay.
Shore's one of both teams are kind of a little hard to get a read on. Shore played Bellefonte tough. Was rallied to beat Montoursville, who was undefeated before that game. But then, last week Mount Carmel ran all over them. I thought that game would be a little closer. It was strength against strength, and Mount Carmel really throttled them up up at Thompson Street Stadium. Now the Bulldogs come down to face a Shikellamy team whose defense, especially its run defense, isn't bad, to be quite honest. It's just it ends up on the field a lot because that offense is really struggling right now. And the other part where the Braves are struggling is their pass defense. The last 2 weeks, 6 incompletions total, 7 maybe because Coy Bastion threw an incompletion in the first drive of the second half. So, I think the Seals were 18-22 last week, and Connor Watkins was 14-17 the week before against the Braves. So, I don't think Jersey Shore and Tanner Larson, Kobe Peacock had a huge game against Montoursville 2 weeks ago. I don't think the Bulldogs' passing attack is quite to that level yet, but that could be a problem for the Braves. And the other big thing is stopping Kyle Toome running the ball. That's the other thing the Bulldogs are going to do, and they're going to try and cause confusion with the hurry up offense they run. And right now, I think the Braves are searching for answers right now offensively. Lucas Tilford's been in and out has been out of the lineup for most of the year right now. He played I think I saw him for 3 plays last week at the beginning of the week or beginning of the game last week.
3 plays at quarterback or total?
Total.
Wow.
All at halfback. Almost screwed it up. Drew Balestrini came out in the first series and started at quarterback, and then Duncan Weir went the rest of the way for the Braves after that first series. And I think that's the big thing for the Braves is trying to find something offensively just to, maybe even a big play just to get some confidence, just to get a touchdown, because that game last week with rival Selinsgrove was 0-0, and the defense came up big early, stopped a drive that started at the Selinsgrove 19 and another drive that started at Selinsgrove 39 in the first quarter, but just couldn't come up with a score. And by the time it was, 14-0 at halftime, it just, there was no inkling that the Braves were going to be able to score to get back into that game, and that's obviously something they've got to solve. Going with the Bulldogs in this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is the week the Braves bounce back.
We talked about Lewisburg a little bit earlier. Tough loss to Mount Carmel 2 weeks ago. But looked good this last week. Max Moyers, who you spent some time talking to yesterday for our game night cover story, which you can read in Friday's Daily Item, has been running very well.
I didn't know what adjective you were going
Yeah,
with.
I didn't know. Very well. And so the Green Dragons 3-1 head to Shamokin at 2-2. I think could be a pretty good game Friday night.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup. Lewisburg undefeated in the Heartland Athletic Conference Division I, and actually so is Shamokin so far. So, this team, whoever probably wins this game, has a leg up in the Division I race. Shamokin. Here's a statement we're going to make 10 weeks this season. Shamokin really struggled last week against Southern Columbia in Coach Hynoski's return to Southern Columbia. They struggled to throw the ball against the Tigers. Well, they struggled to run the ball, but really struggled to throw the ball. I kind of went back to what happened to him last year. 0-6, didn't complete a pass, and just kind of got run out of the stadium by 2 long touchdown catches by Julian Fleming. Gage Garcia scored 3 different ways: rushing touchdown, passing touchdown, and a kickoff return touchdown. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting bounce back game for Shamokin. North Schuylkill really controlled them, but the other 2 games, this Shamokin offense has been much improved from last season. I think they're going to get Bryson James started, running the ball early against Lewisburg, and it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to be a whole lot of Max Moyers again for Lewisburg. He leads the area in rushing. He had 706 yards, 10 touchdowns on the ground,
Wow, and
11 total touchdowns because he had a pass reception last week against Milton. Going to go with Lewisburg in this one, but I think this is a close game, and I think this has a shot to be the best game of the night.
Wow. We talked about Southern, undefeated, looked very good so far. 4-0, headed to Central Columbia for a rivalry game. Blue Jays are 3-1. Only losses to Mount Carmel, who, as we've said, is also very good.
This is probably one of the better teams Southern's going to play in the regular season, and then I think we'd be shocked if they didn't blow them out. One thing to look for the Tigers is quarterback Stone Hollenbach got banged up last week, hurt his non-throwing wrist. Not sure if they're going to try and get away with sitting him down for a couple of weeks to just make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. Going to be interesting to see what they would do at quarterback. Preston Zachman was a quarterback. Going to move him over there, or that kind of takes away that secondary passing game without Julian if Preston's back over a quarterback.
Sure.
And can Southern's going to want to line up and run the ball against against the Blue Jays, which they've since that Mount Carmel game have done a much better job at. And this Blue Jays defense is one of the top defenses in the area, led by Jack Schechterly and Xavier Bradley at linebacker, and we're going to see how they do against this Southern. Because you don't think the Blue Jays are going to be able to score very many points with the way this Tigers defense is playing right now. Back-to-back shutouts of Southern and Shamokin. I don't think if they've given up 200 yards on the ground yet, it's just barely over 200 yards total
Wow.
So far. So it's going to be a tough. Even if Stone doesn't play, it's going to be tough for Central Columbia to score. I think Southern wins this one probably pretty easily again.
I would like to talk to some coaches and have them just be honest and say, when Southern's on your schedule, do you just forget about that week and just try to practice to get better for 2 weeks from then? Or, are you breaking down this film and being like, oh, that guy's just faster and better than all of us, so what could we do?
You got to. You got to try and win. I don't.
Well,
think
of course.
But it's a learning experience because we'll look at just look at Selinsgrove. They play Southern's wing T and really and really struggle against it. But that's a week you got to look at the wing T, and Strick comes out in that wing T, and the Seals really had little problem with defending. Didn't get any none of the misdirection stuff really worked. So it gets you a look at a real good wing T. I think people are realistic when you go into that game, but especially now since they're so talented. But I think Central is a rivalry, and as those kids grow up together, play Little League together, in the Columbia County Little League. So I don't think they go in there thinking they want to lose. You want to be the one to break off that 65 game winning streak and regular season winning streak. So it'll be interesting. I don't think this will be interesting, but I think this is the type of game that Central Columbia you want for playoffs because you're even in the 3A playoffs. There's some good teams, but you're not playing anybody that's better than Southern in the 4-3A playoffs.
We have Danville 3-1 headed to Milton 1-3. Milton, I thought started off the season real well. Philip Davis gets hurt. The last 2 weeks have not gone as well for the Black Panthers.
No, and after they fell behind to Lewisburg last week, Phil did come back and throw for 200 yards and a touchdown. Wow. So we'll see. Hopefully he's healthy because they're going to need him against Danville. Danville started that streak of 70 points last week against this Milton defense, or last year, 4 straight weeks of 70 points. I don't think that happens again. The Black Panthers are improved defensively, but the Ironmen haven't been held under 30 points yet. So if Milton's going to have a shot at this one, they're going to have to score points in bunches. And a healthy Milton offense can do that. I think that I talked to Coach Davis 2 weeks ago, and they were concerned about getting their running game started after not Kmart. Well, Jason Valadares topped 100 yards against Shamokin, and then Kamar in relief of Phil Davis against Warrior Run had almost 200 yards rushing, and they haven't really been able to run the ball very well the last 2 weeks. And I think they need a little bit of balance just to take some of the pressure off of that passing game, just so it's not completely relying on the passing game to get them points. And Danville did a real good job last week in stopping Mifflinburg's running attack, which they've done it. Mifflinburg ran the ball real well 2 weeks ago, so I think Danville wins this one. It'll be nice to see if Milton gets healthy. 8 teams in Class 3A. And they're at near the bottom of those power, 8, 9 in those power rankings. You get a couple wins. This Milton team has a real good shot at its first playoff berth in a long time, and that extra week of practice would be huge for this team.
Yeah, Milton's one of the teams we've been talking about, along with Mifflinburg and Warrior Run, and someone's going to step up. Someone's going to get that playoff spot, do well in the division. And 2 of those teams play each other. Mifflinburg 2-2, coming off a loss to Danville, headed to Warrior Run, still looking for its first win under Chris Long. But the defenders have done some nice things in portions of most of the 4 games they've played so far.
And that's what I was going to say. The only game that I think that they're probably satisfied with that they put 4 quarters together is against Danville 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, where it was close for most of the game until the Ironmen pulled away.
Yeah, Austin Millar had 3 touchdown runs in like 4 minutes.
Yeah, that'll allow you to pull away. Yes. I'm just, this Mifflinburg team up until last week has played real tough defense. So I think it's going to be tough for Warrior Run to score in this game. For Mifflinburg, if they've run the ball, they've played. If they've been able to run the ball, they've played pretty well and won games. If they haven't run the ball, they haven't been able to run the ball very well. That's the 2 games they lost. So I really think getting Gary DeGroat, quarterback run going and Michael Warren in the backfield going is real key in this game. I think Mifflinburg moves to a game above 500 in this one. I think they're a little better than Warrior Run at this point. And at 3-2, Mifflinburg's equaled their win total for the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Wow.
They haven't run more than 3 games in a while. So those Wildcats might be the team that is stepping up out of this crew. It'd be interesting to see how the rest of their season goes.
We told you to be one of them. We didn't know who.
Yeah. And if I had a 3-sided coin, I probably still wouldn't know. I'd still be flipping.
If Mifflinburg wins at Warrior Run, it seems like they're the team that's stepping into that void, though.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah. Hard. We are.
Yeah.
We are good, man.
All right.
It only takes us 5 weeks of the season to figure this stuff out.
We'll still be figuring out some stuff come week 9 or 10, I'm sure.
This is true.
That's all our games. Make sure to pick up Friday's daily item for game night section with Max Moyer's feature. Top leading the area in rushing, you said?
Yep, and scoring.
And scoring, wow. We also will have Todd's picks and column and previews of the other games. Friday night follow along at dailyitem.com with our live scoreboard and our blog with updates from the game. Make sure to pick up Saturday's paper with game stories, and then Monday's paper will have a notebook with interesting bits from Friday's games.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. This will be the first week in many, many years I'm not going to be at a football game. My buddy's getting married. So hopefully talk to you guys next week, and I will be following along from a rehearsal dinner.
Thanks for watching. See you guys next week.
See ya.
Whether it's time to live it up on the field or in the backyard, there's always time to play. The sports medicine team at Sun Orthopedics of Evangelical understands how important movement is to you and your family's life. With 4 convenient locations, the experts at Sun Orthopedics explore every treatment option available, from simple braces to advanced surgical techniques. They support you through the entire healing process, making sure you're back to being a warrior every weekend. Sun Orthopedics of Evangelical. Hit refresh and get moving again.